Hi, it's Elise here with a whole nother teen book spotlight. So, this week we are exploring some biographies and memoirs. And here's why. I feel like sometimes biographies, which are books, nonfiction books about people, memoirs are usually like kind of like an autobiography. They're written by the person that they're about. They seem to kind of get this bad rap that they're boring. And I think that's because when we're in school, the biographies that we're forced to read about people we already kind of know about. But there are so many other biographies and memoirs out there about people maybe you heard of before, maybe people you haven't heard of before, but there's situations all over the place that you can relate to or you'll find interesting, you'll find sucked in. Open your eyes to how other people experience life. So we have 6 we're going to take a look at. Each are a little bit different and unique in and of themselves. So let's get started. Our first one is called The Greatest, and it's about Muhammad Ali. It's written by who I think is one of the greatest YA authors of all time, Walter D. Myers, so this works out perfect. This is the amazing biography about boxer Muhammad Ali, who is considered to be the greatest boxer of all time. He still is. So people consider him the greatest athlete of all time. And this is one that you'll learn about not only his life in the boxing ring, but also outside. And you'll start with his childhood. You'll work through his teenage years, which were the years that defined him as the person he becomes. And you will then meet him when he's was known by his birth name, Cassius Clay, before he becomes Muhammad Ali. And he chooses in the 1960s, as he's becoming this amazing athlete, to not take on these stereotypical roles that were expected of black athletes of the time. And instead he chooses to become his own person. He speaks about the racial injustice, which wasn't really being done at that time. He's one of the first people to speak on. People listen to him. Not only about racial injustice, but also how he embraced Islam and the Nation of Islam. And he carried that forever with him. Now, he was more than just a boxer. He became one of the greatest activists in his generation. He didn't shy away from tough topics, as well as from fights outside of the ring. One known as, very personally to him, when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, to bring awareness to that. Now, again, this is written in Walter D. Myers' amazing style. This fast-paced biography is one that you will not want to put down. Even if you think you know everything there's to know about Muhammad Ali, you will end up coming away with something you didn't know before. Amazing. This is the greatest. Samurai Rising. So let's go back to the 12th century Japan. And it's there that we meet Minamoto Yoshihune, who was the last person anyone thought would become a potential samurai. And it's at that time in Japanese history, Japanese culture, that was one of the highest honors you could be, to become a samurai for your family. When he was just a baby, his father, who was a samurai, went to war with a rival samurai family, and things did not go exactly as his father hoped they would, which resulted in him losing. And when you lost, you were beheaded. And then not only was his father beheaded, then his mother was captured by this rival samurai family as well. And Minamoto then all of a sudden finds himself as this orphan with no place else to really go. He's brought to this Buddhist temple where that's where he grows up. He grows up among these Buddhist monks. And they didn't really teach him the ways to be a samurai. That's not what their purpose was. But even though he was small, skinny, and he wasn't very skilled, this didn't come naturally to him, that's exactly what he chooses to do. He starts to become a samurai that's going to represent his family. And not only does he choose to do that, he also becomes this epic legend in the process. Now, if you're interested in Japanese history, action, adventure, fighting, overcoming the odds, people being like, you can't do that, but you're going to prove them wrong, and you're going to prove them that you can. This is about this amazing warrior who leaves his own mark in history, and it's one that's deserved to be read, that everyone should know about, whether or not you're living in Japan. This incredible story is one that is completely eye-opening on so many levels. I did not think I would enjoy reading this one, but when I was done with it, loved it. This is Samurai Rising. The Plot to Kill Hitler. Meet Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Now, Dietrich here is a pastor who was born and raised in Germany, and he was alive, right when, was born right when the Nazis, before they started getting power, and so he got to witness, their growth, their rise to power, the popularity swell, Hitler's rise to power, and the only thing by like the 1940s that could probably stop Hitler was for him to be assassinated. He had that much of a hold on power. And Dietrich did not really agree with Hitler, so he decided that's what he was going to do. He was going to enter this plot that he was going to then assassinate Hitler to stop everything that was going on from happening. You'll read about his childhood, what led him to this point, including, again, he finds himself in this conspiracy to take down this man who is known all over the world, either for good or for bad. And not only does Dietrich, have this passion, he also has his reasons why. And part of it is you learn that he's one of the first people that go to the Allied forces and tells them about what is going on with these death camps and the final solution. Because before him going to the Great Britain's forces, they didn't even know the Holocaust was starting to happen. And it's because of this man that the world became aware of what was going on. This is not just about Dietrich's actions and beliefs. You will also read in here about how it was like to be an individual in Germany at this time. And, when all this was taking place, and believe it or not, there were people that did not agree with what was going on, contrary to kind of what we learned in history class. We kind of just group all Germans together that they fell under this Nazi regime. So not the case. Incredibly eye-opening. If you enjoy reading a book about a true person that changed, that could have changed the course of history, then this is it. Because even though Dietrich wasn't successful, as we know, if you know history, Hitler wasn't assassinated, things do start to change because of his choices. This is the plot to kill Hitler. Good brother, bad brother. Now, this one kind of will change maybe your thoughts, and because it kind of opened my eyes. Now, if you remember anything from Civil War history, one of the things you probably do remember is how Abraham Lincoln was assassinated at Forest Theater. And from there, you probably do remember the person who did it, John Wilkes Booth. This unique biography, though, is not just about John Wilkes Booth. It's also about his brother, who's older, whose name is Edwin. And it takes this look at their lives growing up and what leads John Wilkes Booth to making the choices that he does. It changes literally the course of our nation. Now, Edwin growing up was always referred to as the good brother. John was referred to as the bad brother. Now, both were actors, both wanted the same things in life, but they each took this different path, and the rest, as they say, is history. You'll learn about their childhood, the choices that they made, plus the choices that were made for them by their families. And then as they became older, you'll find yourself asking, where did things kind of go completely on different paths for them? And kind of where did things go off the rail for John Wilkes Booth that leads him to becoming one of the most wanted men in the United States? Now, this is filled with photos, primary sources, there's journal entries, there's newspaper articles, and you will learn more about these brothers as individuals, but also how they each impacted each other. And, what it was like to live with what happened with your brother after he did what he did. I had never even really thought about that. How did John Wilkes Booth's actions, how were they perceived in his family? This is Good Brother, Bad Brother. Apple, Skin to the Core by Eric Gainsworth. This is a memoir. This is written by the author about his life. And this is written in novel and verse style, as well as there's some amazing paintings, some works of art he has done mixed in. And this is about the author's life growing up as a Native American and living on the reservation, all while dealing with racism, poverty, his sexuality, not being Native American enough. You learn the term apple is a slur in their culture for someone who's red on the outside but white on the inside. But not only is he not Native American enough for his friends and family in the reservation, he's also not white enough, dealing with the people on the outside the reservation. He's also dealing with his family issues. Now, Gainsworth is an enrolled member of the Onondaga Nation, and this memoir is brutally honest. It is eye-opening. It does not shy away from the realities of any topics. And what I totally appreciate about it is it was written by an Indigenous author. And we unfortunately, we haven't gotten that perspective enough, and we need to know more. Even if you're not Indigenous, there's so many themes in here that anyone can relate to going on with their lives. Love this one. Again, it is brutal, it is honest. You might have some tears during it. This is apple skin to the core. And our last one is The Distance Between Us. Again, another memoir. We meet Reina. Now, when we meet Reina, who's the author of this book, she is much younger than she is when she writes this book. She's living in Mexico, where she is now stuck with her super strict grandmother and her older brothers, because her mom and her dad have decided they're going to cross to the other side. They're going to enter the United States illegally. It was safer and easier for them just to do it, the two of them, instead of trying to get all their kids across. And the goal is for them to go to the United States to create a better life. Either to send money back over so they can have more things, or to create a life at the United States that Reina and her brothers can then eventually at some point come join them. Growing up this way, though, was not easy for Reina, and all she wants is her family just to get back together, but she's made fun of. She has to deal with being made fun of at school, being called an orphan because her parents are there. This strict grandmother who has completely different expectations for her than what Reina's parents had for her living in their house. And all Reina wants to do, again, she just wants her family back together, and she tries her best to come to terms with the situation, even though she doesn't understand why it happens. Not only is she trying to deal with this, but she's also trying to figure out her dreams. Like, she wants to go to college in the United States, but she knows what that's going to take. That's going to take her crossing the border for herself, so things don't exactly go as planned. This look at the immigrant experience, especially from a Mexican-American perspective, is one that some readers can completely relate to. Well, for other readers, it will be eye-opening and humanizing, and it will change hopefully your perspective on what is going on at the border crisis currently. This is The Distance Between Us. So these are 6 of the biographies and memoirs we have here at the library. Believe it or not, we have way more than just these 6. We have a whole section of biographies. There's people that you can think of, that you know. There's people you don't even know that have books about them. So I encourage you to come out, check out one of these, or explore our biography section. Get sucked into someone else's life. Learn from them. Relate to them. Whatever it is you want to do, we have a biography just for you. So I hope you tune back next week. We have a whole new Teen Book Spotlight, and I hope you have an amazing week.